I just interviewed Michelle Varghese, who is a writing coach helping creators find their voice and share their stories online. We dove into the soulless rise of AI-generated content, the irreplaceability of human vulnerability in content, and why telling real stories matters more than ever before in the creator economy. I'm Dillan Taylor. I'm the CEO of Grindstone, which is an accountability program for creators trying to go full-time. And here I interview professional creators so that you can learn from their stories, mistakes, and strategies and become a full-time content creator yourself. And if you've ever felt stuck staring at a blank page, not quite sure how to write something that really connects with people, you will get a lot out of this episode. Michelle is a dear friend, not just of me, but of this podcast. And so without further ado, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Michelle Varghese. Ms. Michelle, you are a writing coach, and something that's been on my mind mostly in a negative sense lately has been AI in both as a writer and someone who reads writing. And so I would be curious from your perspective, what is the most amazing thing about AI today in terms of writing online, and what is your least favorite, most hated thing about it?
I'll start with most hated because it's easy and common, which is that there's a lot of quote unquote AI slop out there. You can tell ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever tool you use to just write you an essay. And it's impressive what it can do, but it's generally no personality, generic, commercial, forgettable. And a lot of people lean on that. I totally understand why. Some things are not interesting to write, like marketing, content, or copywriting. But there's a lot more just didn't do anything to this, sending it out into the world, generic content out there. And so I don't like that there is more of that. That's my negative. Now, for the positive, what I really love about AI and these AI tools is, as somebody who works with people who are writing, both as a coach, and I work with David Pearl's Rite of Passage as an editor, mentor, different roles for that. And AI and all these tools, ChatGPT and stuff, came out in between my experience working with them. And it's been really cool to see how some of the biggest blockers people have with getting started writing online, publishing their writing, marketing content, whatever it is that they struggle with, can now be streamlined through AI. So not necessarily having ChatGPT or Claude write your content for you, but hey, I don't have an idea. Boom. I can go back and forth with ChatGPT. It knows probably a little bit about me, or I can give it that context and it can start to suggest things that I can write about. It can help me decide what tool to publish on. There's like a lot of spaces where people get decision fatigue, they get paralyzed by decision making. What tool do I use? What should I write about? Should I make an intro first? Should I just get into this topic? How long should it be? It's like all of these questions that have actually nothing to do with the actual piece you want to write. And I think AI is helping eliminate that for people. And I would love to see more people, I recommend people use it for these type of things because you can still write, be creative. ChatGPT doesn't have to touch that. But don't be afraid to use it to get rid of those hard parts that prevent you from getting started.
Yeah, as I hear it, it removes the dreaded blank page, the blank canvas, the 0 to 1 of how do I even get any momentum going here to get this thing put an outline for me together. I'm thinking about writing something about this. What do I absolutely have to include here? Something that just sparks the beginning of the inklings.
Yeah, exactly.
And for the negative piece, it's fascinating because I think about it's in my head a frequent amount of time, but it didn't quite hit me until you shared that, which is this is going to sound fake deep, but why do we as humans enjoy consuming content from other people? And I think that what you shared, which is this empty, you can have ChatGPT or any LLM create a thing, create a post, and it can like tell a story. It can provide useful, correct information that could teach a lesson or make you better at something. But if we know that it's AI, we don't care. It's like I want nothing to do with it. It's you said it's boring, it's empty, it's just sort of vapid. And so that almost tells me that it's not about it's not a means to an end. It's not a means to an end. It's not just like whatever the content is, I don't care how it is given to me, like so long as it's useful and I can do something with this. It really is like, no, I want this. There's like it's so hard to find words here. I don't even mean this in a woo way, but like if we know there's no soul to it, it's a completely different game. And maybe to put an example to this, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this, and we chatted about this recently, LinkedIn, for whatever reason, seems to have this insane flooding of AI comments. I don't know what people are doing or if like how easy it is for people to, I think LinkedIn as a platform itself offers like various one-click AI responses to comments, but which blows my mind. I made a post a few weeks ago, and it was a photo of me in an Airbnb from last year where I was traveling all throughout the year and living in different countries. It was a very difficult year, probably the hardest year of my life for many different reasons.
Yeah.
But I was lonely. I was depressed. I'm like trying to make this business work that, now we're doing well, but at the time we were not doing well. Going through a breakup. It was wild, and it was just a photo of me, just like looking at the camera like this with my laptop and like my makeshift light and camera, and I just had this defeated look. And I posted it and I said, like, this was me a year ago. I was living in a bunch of foreign countries. Like, here's how I felt. My life on Instagram looked great, but don't believe what you see online. Something like that. And this guy commented, getting work done, with like the muscle emoji and done in all caps. And I'm sorry. It's like, brother, this post is about my depression. Like, what are you talking about? And so I was like, okay, this is not a human. No human looked at my post and then left that comment. Hence sparking this like this disgust, this frustration with AI, because there's no soul there. It's just like it's kind of like it's like violating in a weird way. So anyway, that's a lot to throw at you, but I'm just, what comes up for you as you hear all this?
It's interesting because there's this theory out there. I think it's been out in the world longer than AI, but it's basically the dead internet theory, which essentially says, as I understand it, or my takeaway was, the internet's going to turn into bots talking to bots. LinkedIn will be the first to go. I think for sure LinkedIn will be the first to go. I will say I worked for a competitor to LinkedIn for like 5 years, so maybe I'm biased. But with LinkedIn specifically, I think it's a great case study for this because it's already so performative, because people are in work mode, professional mode. Even if you're an entrepreneur, networking mode. It's actually just like going to a networking event. Like if you go to a networking TM event, you go there, everybody you talk to, you end up saying the same 3 things. Oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, everyone you talk to, it feels like they have their pitch ready. And I can't blame anybody for it, right? Like that's the purpose of the event. You're not going to go and start talking about how you couldn't pay your bills last month because the business was struggling. That's not the place for that. Nobody, will buy your business probably, or who knows? Or maybe that vulnerability would be appreciated, but LinkedIn is not where people go to often bear their souls out. Or some people do, like you did in that moment. But yeah, it's already so performative, and I think AI is so perfect for that. Because when I talk to people who want to grow on LinkedIn, like there's a lot of opportunities on LinkedIn right now because I think they are pushing their creator network. People do connect with people. I mean, I could talk on Twitter or Substack or my old podcast. None of that would get as much visibility with people I know and in my like first, second, third connections the way they would on LinkedIn. I've just been on LinkedIn for so long. And yet it just feels, I know people use the word cringe, but I don't even like it in this context. It's just performative. And so I think, like I was saying, LinkedIn will be the first victim to this dead internet theory because there's less and less people like you who are sharing about the hard parts about the journey. And vulnerability is something that is so essential to connecting with your audience, connecting with your readership, and building community online. And it's just going to be a lot of people who are like, okay, I wrote this essay. Let me throw it into ChatGPT, tailor it to my voice, and have it spit out a LinkedIn post so that I can promote it. And then a bunch of Autobots are going to be like, boom, 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 boom. That's so interesting. I really love your take on da-da-da. That's so interesting. Da-da-da-da. Everybody's using the same bot. And yeah, I do think if I was working at LinkedIn on their creator team right now, I would be less concerned about how to encourage engagement, which I think is what these buttons are for, like the AI buttons that make it easier to respond. And I would be like, how do we make sure this doesn't become a website where bots are talking to bots are reaching out to bots, and soon everyone's just going to let their LinkedIn run in the background and then go touch grass somewhere.
There's so much here. I'm also, I was just reminded of on my birthday this year on Facebook. Not that I use Facebook, and I certainly don't really care about anyone saying happy birthday to me, especially on Facebook. But I noticed that this year I got the same happy birthday, capital H, capital B, and the same 3 emojis afterwards from like,
oh my gosh,
I think like 80% of the people. And so I didn't quite think about that. I haven't thought about that since, but they're clearly, I don't know, I don't really use Facebook, but there must be a button that's just like, it's Dylan's birthday. Click this button to say happy birthday to him. And it's just like, click, click, click. And even that, I'm reminded of just the levels of connection where it's like that is, at least to me, almost the equivalent of saying nothing. It's like, it is the equivalent of doing absolutely nothing. And then writing out a personal comment would be a step above that. And then I'm sure there are many steps, but then a step above that I do quite appreciate is when someone on Facebook just sends me a message. It's like, hey, Dylan, I saw it's your birthday. Like, I just wanted to say happy birthday. I hope you really enjoy it. I'm like, all right, this wasn't performative. This was just for me. Like, it wasn't on the thing and etc. But this nothingness, this vapidness, the dead internet theory is what it's called.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
or I invented it just now. I'm not sure.
You invented this, yeah, and I will quote you and say that you invented this on Twitter.
I do have a quick comment on that. I really think there's a great opportunity here too, actually. Let's say you're a creator and you're trying to build your audience online, you're trying to build community online. One way that people talk about doing that, and one way I always recommend to people who are trying to grow on like Twitter or Substack, is to engage and leave comments for other people. They call them like reply guys, but really I think of it as like supporting my friends and just letting people know you saw their work. And I remember when I first started engaging with people on like Twitter and Substack, a lot of times the advice is like say something thoughtful, like be really, interesting and engaging. And so a lot of people, and I definitely felt this way, you can once again feel paralyzed. Like, oh, I want to make like the perfect comment. Like, how do I say it? And how does it look good? And I don't want it to have a typo. And I think an interesting thing is now we're like swinging in the other direction where I'm like, oh, awesome. I can write this like long-winded, not fully cohesive message. I can have typos on it, but it's almost now more warm and well received because it's like, oh, you're not a bot. You're a sloppy human. And I love that you like engage with me. So I think actually now you can give yourself permission to take away some of that overthinking because realness on the internet, even in like commenting and engaging with people, is so much more appreciated. Like, I wonder if you had gotten a birthday wish that just said happy birthday, but like birthday was spelled wrong. Maybe like 2 years ago, you'd been like, this person didn't even pay attention when they were typing. Now you'd be like, wow.
From my friends list, I say,
yeah. I refuse to accept friends with typos. Now you'd be like, wow, this person like typed it out. Like that's a finger slip. Like amazing. So I think there is opportunity. Like if you are a human on the internet, lean into your humanness. And I think it will actually help you engage more with other people, and like people will feel more seen by you because you're an actual person with eyes and not an LLM bot just
Yeah.
auto responding.
Yeah, you're making me realize that there's a new currency or value, which is basically proof that this is in fact a human being. It's like a person-to-person version of whatever that checkbox is. Like, I am not a robot. It's like we're kind of
The
dying
CAPTCHA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like our own. We're sort of dying for CAPTCHA, and we send cold DMs. That's how we get our 90+% of our clients here in Grindstone. And one of the big questions that people send is like, is this a bot? Like, is this a bot? How did you find me? And I think what everyone's really looking is just like, please prove to me that you are in fact a human being. And so a lot of times I'll send a loom or like a photo of me just like, it's me,
waving.
I'm real. Yeah. And that's why like I'll send videos of myself, typos. Yeah, you're right. Like there's an added currency to typos. I actually like it when newsletters that I subscribe to have typos in them because of that very reason. It's like this little captcha of like, okay, yeah, like you can't. Maybe there is a prompt for like, write me a newsletter and put one typo in it. Sure thing, Dylan.
Confused there and there a few times.
Yeah, well, that's simply unacceptable. Again, I would subscribe to that newsletter, but
I think this is how we beat the bots, though, right? Like soon people will start trading their, ChatGPT will be like, okay, I have to make it seem more real, so I'm going to add more flaws, and then the stuff you get out of it is actually going to be even worse because I'm going to be like, why did you write me this email with a bunch of typos in it? I'm sending this to my boss.
Yeah.
And it will implode and humans will take over.
It's fascinating because I have thought that I do believe that one of the many, like everyone's making a GPT or like something similar. There's so many LLMs being created, but I think that there will be a real need for an LLM that is very good at making it seem like it is not an LLM. Something like that. Like, something that, because of this added value or currency of human error or human messiness or sloppiness, however you put it, I think that would be a really valuable LLM to create. It's just like one that basically feels like a sloppy human being and has that currency to it. And what comes to mind as to how difficult that is, maybe I'm really reaching here because this is quite different from writing, but I really love to play chess. I love chess. It's a big passion. I've been playing it almost every day since I got into it over lockdown about 5-ish years ago. And you can play chess bots of increasing difficulty level. And the chess bots, they do accurately get harder and harder and harder, like noticeably. It's very easy to feel the increase in difficulty as you're playing against them. But the worse they are, they program like, all right, you're going to have this higher percentage of making mistakes and making errors. But what they're really bad at are making human-like errors. There are very human-esque errors to the game of chess, where, like, if you showed me a position and you were like, all right, there's a 1200, which is like there's an ELO rating for chess players. For like, all right, a 1200 has this position, but they just made their next move is a blunder. What do you think they would make? I could probably say like, well, they might do this thinking that they could do this, this, and this, but that's a blunder because of this. And a computer has a very, very hard time doing that.
Wow.
A computer will just make random mistakes where you're like, a human would not make that mistake, but they don't know like, I would make this type of mistake in this position. They're just like, I have to make this percentage of mistakes in general. So I'll throw my mistake in right here where it doesn't really make sense. So I that might be a little high level for people, especially if you don't play chess, but that's what came to mind for me.
I think that's a really great example because in that scenario, right, like a computer essentially is just looking and playing this game and saying, okay, like this percentage chance, 20% chance, this is the best move, 80% chance, this is the move, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, Okay, I have to add mistakes. Okay, I'm going to add in 20% of mistakes. A human is hungry, tired, just fought with their girlfriend, not paying attention, got something in their eye, got stressed out. Who knows why they do the things that they do? And I'm sure there is like a bit of a pattern to it. But what's like so interesting about the human learning experience and human intelligence is that it's actually not as methodical as it should be. Like it's literally like magic. Like if you I was reading something that Noam Chomsky wrote about artificial intelligence, and he made a really great reference to children and how the way we teach a child, like if I point to a dog and I'm like, that's a dog, the child will actually start to pick up, right? Like, okay, that's a dog, that's a dog. And they intuitively might know that a cat is not a dog. But it's really difficult to actually get an AI to that point. You have to show them like thousands of images, then you have to show them a cat, then you have to show them a muffin that looks like a dog, and it's it doesn't learn the same way. And I think on the internet when we're like communicating, and again like a LinkedIn world, maybe like the humanness is already gone to some extent, so maybe it's less important. But it's funny that you're saying something like chess, which feels so mathematical in a way. You still can notice when you're playing against a human versus a bot. And I'm sure that makes the experience, for whatever reason, just like a little bit less fun than if you were actually like sitting down with your friend who is at like a 1200 level.
Orders of magnitude less fun. It's orders of magnitude because for that very reason, you don't quite you can't really learn chess by playing the computer. Because you're not going to get real human-like feedback. It's not going to prepare you for playing chess against another human being, which is what we all are really here to do. And to go back to the original point of this emptiness, it's like, let's say I win. Let's say I have an incredible combination that I find. I calculate really well. It's just this mind-blowing thing. There's just no real satisfaction there. That there would be as though like I just beat this guy, I just crushed this guy. This human being had to experience the wake of my power, my tactics. So yeah, it's quite crazy, and I don't know. Like engines are getting better and better in their computing power, their calculating power, as far as chess goes, but they're still not getting better at acting like humans, more or less.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that plays a part in the creative world, because I think what maybe is more clear in chess to some extent will like we're sort of feeling those qualitative computer versus human flaws in a way that we may not comprehend but can feel sort of like inside of us. I read a really interesting essay from Nate Silver, who did a lot of like the statistics for elections. Really famous because he was wrong a couple times.
Is he the poker guy?
Yes, he's the poker guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you read the essay where he had, I don't know if it was ChatGPT or Claude or something, play poker, and it like gave certain personality types. And what you're saying is exactly the same, because like one person would be like a woman who's like a math teacher, but like first time really playing poker, versus somebody who's like a seasoned professional. And he was commenting on how there were certain things that as a poker player, if you were at a table with these people, it's not about the statistics. It's like, okay, well, this person probably wouldn't be that ballsy with the hand that they have if they were just a math teacher. Or this person, yeah, you can make that call, but that's like not really the culture of the game. And so, yeah, I think as we move further and further away, like these tools will have a purpose, but it is interesting to see where Like, they really do kind of lack in the human intelligent aspect.
It's like a language. And I was just talking to my good friend and CFO about this. He lives in Barcelona, fluent in Spanish. Like he doesn't even really think when he's speaking Spanish. He's Scottish, so speaks English.
Mm.
And he was telling me the other day that what the hardest thing for him is explaining certain things in Spanish around here's how it made me feel. Or like
To
to
other people?
to other people in Spanish.
Mm.
So let's say he's having a conversation with his Spanish friend in Spanish, and he's saying like, yeah, like, I was talking to Dillan the other day, and he said this thing, and it just like, it really rubbed me the wrong way. And it's like, it's now the subtleties of language that where one little inch, one little sort of millimeter difference is the difference that we're feeling and that we want to articulate. But something like Spanish, where they have like, you can just say like, yeah, it was really sad. But if in English, for example, and Spanish is a beautiful language, but in some ways it's just simpler. It's just there you can kind of get to the point a little bit simpler and faster. And I promise those will come back around to what we were talking about. But if you want to say it in English, for example, or I mean many other languages that are even denser than English, but it's like, it wasn't just sad. It was gray. I was just feeling, it just made me feel gray, or like it was really tense, or just like it was awkward. It was just, whereas like in Spanish or another language, you could say just strange. Yeah, it was really strange. But it's like, but strange doesn't really get at the heart of what I'm trying to say or articulate. And so, all that to say, there are all these, similar to a language, there are all these tiny, tiny, tiny subtleties that I think, as I'm hearing it, as we're parsing this out a bit, it's just so difficult to parse out so many subtleties. That change given the context, and there's just so many variables at any given time, like almost an infinite amount, which I think will continue to make it very, very difficult to get to exactly what it is really feeling like and looking like.
That's why I think there's so much opportunity for creators still, whether it's like writing, podcasting, video. All of these things will have more and more of an AI element to them. And I think there are going to be AI stars that come out, like you'll have a Instagram influencer that is AI, but people still love to follow them for whatever reason. I think that's going to happen. But I really, really believe that what we're seeing as a shift creatively, hopefully, is people leaning into the personal, the personal brand, essentially, but like really the humanness of your writing or your content. And it's because of exactly what you're describing. Like, it's hard to say why we sometimes just know we're like not dealing with a machine. And sometimes we don't know. Like, it's pretty good. And usually I think the best AI writing is like a combination of the two, right? Like, people might have their ideas and are working with AI, but it's not something that's just like printed out. And I think, though, that like personality is going to matter more and more, because I could write a review about Atomic Habits and say nothing about my own personal opinion. I won't talk about how growing up I was using nail polish and learning history at the same time, and now I understand the power of habit stacking. Versus, like, I could literally just go to ChatGPT and it could quickly summarize the book for me and put it into a little essay. And why not? There's going to be plenty of that out there. And so a lot of people are scared to put their personality in their content, or they're scared to put their personality in their writing. And I think that's going to hurt people more and more if they're not willing to open up a little bit and like show people like, hey, I'm a human and you might relate to me because I liked building Legos when I was younger, and I'm still an adult nerd who does that. And people are going to be like, yes, I am an adult nerd too, and I love building Legos. And yeah, I think we're just going to see a lot more personality-driven creators like coming up, basically.
How can you typically tell when writing is AI generated?
I think it's hard. I actually think a lot of people, from what I hear, especially since I talk to a lot of writers, I know a lot of people who write who are creative, there's this perception that it's really obvious. If you look at a site like Substack, there's all these conversations about, oh, if it has too many M dashes, it's probably AI. And if it has too many emojis, it's probably AI. And I have friends who help ghostwrite for big creators. And a lot of times the writing is, they have a GPT setup where they have their tone, voice, style set up within this AI machine, basically. And they know to take out all of those little things, and they could pop out essays based off of their YouTube videos, or their, one piece of content can create 5 pieces of content. And they'll actually have a human then go and un-AI the writing. And so I think we don't, and when I look at that, I don't necessarily think to myself, oh, this is AI. What I do think is true is that I do know that generic, watered down commercial writing is very forgettable to me. So whether or not a person wrote that or an AI tool wrote that, it doesn't matter. Like if I read your email, and I'll use my Atomic Habits example again. If it's just, hey, here are 5 things that I learned from reading chapter 6 of Atomic Habits, boom, 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 I might learn something from that. But I'm probably going to forget it. I'm going to forget that you wrote it. I'm going to forget that I've learned nothing about you. I don't care about you at all anymore. And to be honest, I can feel my eyes glaze over when I'm reading some of this stuff. And so it's not so much about whether or not I can tell writing is AI written, because I think that's just going to be harder and harder to do. And I think I'm speaking more honestly than other people when I'm saying, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But I can tell when I zone out because it's just not that interesting, compelling, vulnerable, and it doesn't make me feel something.
That is a really good barometer, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that because this is now a thing, I feel more on guard. Even if someone doesn't use AI to make something, if I see more emojis than I'm used to, which is I use emojis in my writing, my newsletters. But if I see that, I don't know what the M dash exactly is, but whatever the long dash
yeah.
is, I use those in my writing, but I noticed that AI uses almost I use the long one with no space between words, and AI will use this medium size one. There's the short dash. AI uses this medium dash, and then if you hold Shift Command dash, it does the long one. So getting stuck in the weeds here, but AI will leave a space between the words and that medium sized dash. So it's okay, that's something I look out for. So now I feel paranoid is what I'm saying. It's if I see some what I think are signs, I'm I want to stop reading this. I want to just not take this as seriously as I would have.
It's interesting. What I think the actual opinion is not that I hate AI writing. I hate to know that it's AI writing. I've read emails before, and let's say it's on the topic of something like marketing. It doesn't have to necessarily be that interesting or compelling. I've read the email, kind of scanned it. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, got some information. And then at the bottom, the person wrote, hey, this was help written with ChatGPT. Which, while I appreciate the transparency, I'm unsubscribe. I don't want to just read or subscribe to your newsletter that's AI generated content. But I didn't necessarily, maybe I didn't find it that interesting, but there's something about me being if you don't put that much effort into it, do I have to put the effort into reading it? I'll just prompt AI if I have these questions. So I do think it's not so much that we don't enjoy the writing or that we can't take something away from it. I think it's that we really have a visceral reaction when we find out that it's AI. So you could be reading something and you hit that long M dash, or you see that common used emoji, And you're like, oh, is this ChatGPT?
Yep. Yep.
And even when I'm giving writing feedback now, I'm a little bit more cognizant of that, of like un-AIing people's writing, even if they didn't have AI to do it. I have one guy I'm working with who started talking to ChatGPT a little bit. And just because of that, started using M dashes more in his writing. Like it's totally personal. You can tell it's not AI writing. But I was like, hey, I don't, you got to cut down on the M dashes. Like, this is not the time to be picking up. And I wrote about this, like a note on Substack, and it's very controversial because some people are like, you can't take my M dashes out of my hands. Like, I refuse to let go. I've used them before. It's in my writing. And other people are like, yeah, like, I don't want to. I think they're like me, where it's like, I don't want to trigger someone into thinking an AI wrote this, because I think it just, for whatever reason, that association makes it feel more icky.
Yeah. However, I think an insight that's coming to me, it's not a brand spanking new insight. It's something that has in this creator space just continued to like come back and come back and come back of like, oh yeah, which is just the absolute power and I think necessity of telling stories,
Mm-hmm.
actual real stories, not just info, not just here's your takeaway, here's your lesson, like here's the lecture, but basically giving the why. So not just the what, but
Yeah.
providing a why around it. Because even if I read, say, an article that you write, it's Michelle's article, it's full of M dashes, but it's also full of deep personal stories from Michelle in her life, maybe things that she's insecure about or struggling with or really proud of, really grateful for. Like, I see this color wheel of human emotion, told through story. Like you mentioned earlier, it's the difference between here's a numbered list of my takeaways reading this chapter of a book versus here's what I was doing prior to reading this chapter, and now here are the changes that I've made, and here my boyfriend was saying this and this about. It's like it takes a few sentences for me to be like, oh, I get this person. Like, oh wow, I now feel connected to these words on a screen. Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree with that. A good example of this is, I'm a fan of Morgan Housel, and he wrote Psychology of Money, and I don't remember anything from that book around the topic of the psychology of money. I'm sure if someone started telling me about one of his essays, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'd probably be unsure of whether to attribute it to him. But I do remember, I have a really strong memory, spoiler alert, of the beginning of the book where he talks about how when he was younger and he was doing competitive skiing and he lost two of his friends in an avalanche. And I cried when I read that. And I think he tells the story again in Same as Ever, his other book. And I was reading it on the plane and I was like, oh, crap. I'd already heard the story and I still cried again. And it's because it's him. It's his personal story. It makes me feel something. It makes me feel something about him. Like I have a lot of empathy for him. Maybe I'm associating my own experiences with what he's telling me. And it's exactly what you're saying. Like, and I'm sure that's hard for him, right? Like, I'm sure it's hard to be like, I have to be vulnerable about this experience in my life that really shaped me, but it will be related to the things that I talk about. And I know it's important to let readers into my life. But it makes me like his writing so much more, and it makes me like him as a writer so much more. Not that you shouldn't process your stuff before you write about it and share it, but like the openness, right? Like, it's especially being a male in the personal finance community, like a lot of times maybe it's not as encouraged to talk about your feelings or to be vulnerable, or people are afraid to do those things, or they think people don't care. But that, I think, is such a great example to your point, which is like when I know somebody's story and I'm like, I feel like I'm like in that moment. And maybe he told me that I need to invest more in index funds. I don't remember. But those are the things that people remember, and those are the things that are going to be more important moving forward.
Yeah, in our last conversation, or one of our last conversations, you shared that you have struggled to be vulnerable in your creativity or in your writing, or when you and your sister were doing your podcast. And so I'm curious, how do you challenge yourself to be vulnerable in your creativity? And maybe it'd be easier to share, how do you challenge other people? It's always easier to help other people do the thing that we know that we probably can't do ourselves. But you're a writing coach. How do you push your clients to be more vulnerable when that comes up?
Yeah, it is easier to do for others, but I'll speak from my own experience that this is my own hill I had to climb. So it's something that I really relate to, and something that's the reason why I look for it in other people's writing when I'm editing their pieces, because I know how challenging it is. And I think there's two parts to it. One is I give myself permission to write the boring version first. So I write my draft and I just let whatever comes out. Sometimes it's all observations and thoughts and like no stories, nothing personal. And I just need to get that out onto the page. Sometimes it's the other way. It's just feelings. And I'm like, I don't know yet what the point of this is, or even if I'm going to publish it, but let me like get my thoughts out onto the page and just write that with the permission that it doesn't have to be perfect yet. And I think that's important because it's okay to go back to your writing and then inject those things in. After that, I think the important thing to evaluate is where you are in your own journey with wanting to share something. Someone gave me this advice once when I was going through a tough time last year. I was really just struggling with some personal things in my life that I write personal essays. I share a lot about my life online. I knew I was not at a place where I was ready to share those things. And someone gave me the advice, like, write from scars, not wounds. So it's important to hold space for yourself if you're going through something challenging, to be like, this is personal and I'm still working through it. And maybe I don't want to share that. I find it really a lot easier to talk about things that I have gone through maybe a year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. It's a lot easier for me to look back and talk about those things. Sobriety is a really, really great example. I quit drinking 5 years ago last month, which has really been a cool journey for me. I learned a lot about myself.
Congrats, 5 years.
Thank you. The first podcast my sister and I did on that was probably maybe not even a full year out from when I quit drinking. And I felt really uncomfortable talking about it. Like, my sister and I were like fighting before we did this podcast episode because I just like I had a lot of shame around why I quit. I didn't really understand the process yet. I still had difficulty explaining it to other people. And now I feel so much more comfortable talking about my experience. I've written about it. I've heard other people's stories and they've shared it with me. And I've seen over the 5 years how it's gone easier and easier for me to write about it in the time that I've processed it. And so I would say, like, don't write from scars, not wounds. Don't pressure yourself to like bleed onto the page if you're not ready. But also keep in mind that when you are able to share those experiences, so many people relate to those experiences and not enough people are going to tell you about that because it's scary and we just think that people don't want to hear our stories. And in reality, like, when you're able to share those moments, like, those are the essays that I write that I get the most responses to. I get like long emails back about people's own journeys or somebody they know. And it's really, really moving and impactful to hear that from other people. So that would be the place that I would recommend starting from. And when you see that, it helps. Like, when you see how people respond, I think it helps too to like keep going. It's like, okay, this wasn't in vain. Like, it helps somebody else on a similar journey.
Yeah, it's so good. I love that quote. Write from scars, not wounds. How do you know when it's a scar and no longer a wound?
I don't know that you necessarily know for sure. I think you know when it's a scar. I think once you're good, I think you know. unfortunately, I think there's probably like 20 steps along the way from wound to scar that you're like, I think I'm okay. I'm not okay. We're friends. I told you about this. Like, I went through a breakup in a relationship at the end of last year, like 4 to 5 dates. But between dates 4 and 5, the person that I was seeing, they had a friend who they lost to suicide. Close friend, somebody in town. And it was really, really difficult for me. I can only speak about my own experience because the relationship was ending. Somebody I knew was going through something traumatic. We didn't actually know each other that well. There are a lot of different parts of that I needed to navigate. And I would say maybe 1 month after, I was like, I'm good. Like, I've dealt with this, processed this. The relationship ended. I'm doing really great. And then when I think about that now, and I think about like a month later when I'm like crying and trying to tell somebody the story and really just can't handle like the details of it and is having a hard time being even empathetic for the other person still. Like, now that I'm like 6, 7, 8 months out, I'm like, oh wow, I thought I was healed, but I was not. I think it still would have been challenging for me to share that story at that point, and I would have probably felt that in my body. I think if you like follow somatic work, you can almost just feel when you're like, ugh, I'm pushing myself and this is like really uncomfortable, but not in a way I think that's healthy. And I think I can feel now, like I feel a lot more comfortable telling that story. I feel much more distance from it. I understand how I've processed it. I understand how I've moved on. But yeah, unfortunately, you don't always know. And I think as long as you're being honest with yourself about how you feel and how you're sharing that and you feel good about it, that's like the best that you can do.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. So thank you. And it's a very... I don't typically like this answer to to a question, but what came up to me as I asked that, I was just like, yeah, like you just kind of know. Like
Yeah.
and I think I think what I got out of what you just shared is when you're like bullshitting yourself. Because
Yeah.
I have kind of made a career of my career has been one of my biggest strengths, I think, in my career, creatively, entrepreneurially, whatever, is put me through anything, I will gather lessons from it. Like, I will find a way for it to make me stronger, and I will share my lessons, and it will make me a better version of myself, whatever, for whenever something similar like that happens again. However, I have noticed that I have this habit of trying to reach that point as quickly as possible, and oftentimes
Yeah.
I will say I've hit that point when I have not yet quite. Maybe I understand it logically. I understand the lesson here, but I don't quite feel the lesson yet. I still feel like very hurt, very sad. I also went through a very big breakup last year. I mean, it still affects me. Like,
Yeah.
I think about it pretty much every day, and it fades, and it comes in waves. But there've been so many times over the last few months where people are like, how are you doing? I'm like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I just like share the lessons, right? I'm like, yeah, well, this happened,
Yeah.
and here's what I learned from it, and this is how life in life this happened, and then
Yeah.
coming to my brain on a regular basis, I'm just like, yeah, it makes me sad. I'm still sad.
Yeah.
And that's totally okay. But it's just we want to feel like it's such a powerful, strong place to be of just like, no, I'm past this. I know, I can write a blog post about this. That's basically it. It's just like I can write a Substack article about this and share my takeaways in a way that's useful. But anyway, I don't even remember the original track of this conversation. But
Yeah. Well, you were asking when like where you are in that scar to wound to scar journey. And writing actually is part of that process, to your point. Like, you kind of joke about it, but it's actually true. Like, when you can sit down and first I feel like I just need a journal, like morning pages style, like get my feelings out. But when I get to a point where I'm like, okay, let me like try to write something, an essay that is still meaningful to an audience, like I'm respecting their time. It doesn't necessarily have to be a lesson or a takeaway. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes it's like, I'm just dealing with this and I don't know what to do. But that's, I think you're at a point there even where you're like, okay, I'm willing to like going through the process of writing this is actually forcing me to think about it constructively. And I think that's like a good exercise in the process. And I think what's really nice when you are able to share is you're able to hear from people who are going through something similar. And that I think is huge. Like, not only do you let them be seen, but I think it's nice to be seen by them. Like, kind of like a general example of this is, a lot of my friends are having babies right now, and they're pregnant and they're having children, and it's really exciting, and I'm so excited for them. And, I send them texts and I want to send them gifts and all of these things. But there's this weird feeling I have because I haven't actually gone through the process. I actually can't comment on the experience, or I don't actually know. I know that when I've gone through it myself, I'll be able to speak on it and relate to their experiences and like probably have even a deeper conversation because I can actually know like how I felt at every stage on that journey. And so while I love my friends and I think they appreciate me, I can feel that like delta that they are experiencing something so major in their life that I just cannot actually relate to outside of theoretically. And the reason I bring that up is back to writing is that like when you share a story or something you're going through, you never know who's going to pop up and be like, I went through that. And I remember when I was at your stage, when I was saying I was okay, but I wasn't actually okay. And it's funny to look back on that now because I'm married with 10 kids and I was being so silly, but I still cried every time I heard Neo play on the radio. And it's nice to be able to connect with those people and be like, yes, or someone earlier on the stage. They're like, I got dumped yesterday. And I'm literally crying all the time. And I'm so upset. And I don't know what to do with myself. But I'm happy to know that 6 months from now, I can at least fake it a little bit better than I'm faking it now. And so I think that is the power of like sharing vulnerably online, whether it's writing or video or something more long form, is that you're able to find the people who've had similar experiences to you too.
100%. It must be said that "So Sick" by Neo.
Yeah.
It was my first ever MySpace song when I made a MySpace in 2000.
Oh my gosh.
2005. 2005.
I love that. Dillan, you're such a Pisces. I love that for you. That's a banger, though. That song is still so good.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I still, it's still my MySpace song to this day.
Yeah.
No, I don't. This is, really good. I mean, the big theme I'm gathering from this, I think we were starting to talk about AI and writing and just creativity and like humanity in general is just the value of human connection. And how it doesn't actually take that much, right? Like you think we live in such so much of this just sounds very fake deep for me. So I apologize. Maybe I'll listen.
It's actually an AI Dillan just spurting out feelings that he thinks other humans will relate to.
Yes, Michelle. And the thing about human connection is that it gets me to stop spinning my wheels. Bullet emoji, getting work done. That's my favorite thing about it. It's incredibly irreplaceable, and we live in a very strange age where we can feel such high levels of human connection just by reading words on a screen because we know that it came from a human being and we feel that we can relate to this person's stories. And when you shared about this Delta not yet having kids, trying to relate to people who are having kids, there's this like, I think about this a lot in the marketing sense, but like as a business, being able to articulate the pain points, basically being able to articulate how someone else, like what someone else is going through internally to the point where they're like, oh, that is one of the most powerful things that you can do as a business and as you're sharing, like just as a human being in general. Like it's such a you can't really fake that, I think, right? Like here's how I felt. And you're like, that is how I feel right now. Like that's it right now. And you're like, yeah, you're probably feeling like this and you're scared about this. And you're like, yes. It's like this relief of like, oh my God, like somebody understands what is going on in my head.
Yes. It's interesting because the takeaway is basically in a world of AI writing, AI generated content, AI comments, lean into your humanness. Like, be more human. Which is sometimes, I think, harder. Like, I think we're taught to, like, strip away our humanness, or we have this thought that we have to look perfect online, or we shouldn't share our feelings, or we're just dumping our problems onto people. And in reality, I don't see too many people erring in that direction. I think you can probably, like, 99% of people listening to this can probably be more human, more vulnerable, more open in whatever type of writing, videos, podcast, whatever thing they're sharing, and people are going to resonate even more deeply with what you're sharing. Be a human in an AI world is the takeaway, I would say.
Indeed. And on that note, I'm wondering if I can share with you how we in Grindstone teach our creators to use more vulnerability if they're feeling stuck.
Yes, I would love that, because I come across this a lot. Like, actually helping people be more vulnerable is such a big part of helping people in their creative journey.
Cool. Well, maybe you can steal this from.
Oh, I'm planning to. Sorry, I don't plan to keep it to myself.
So I actually got this from a business mediator that I met last year. And it was an icebreaker that she took us through. And I've now taken this and molded this into a sort of framework for just unlocking human, not just vulnerability, but humanness, to use the word that you just used.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's your 5 fingers. And we just work through each of the 5 fingers, starting with the thumb. So thumbs up, something that you're incredibly proud of or grateful for, something that you have an incredibly positive, like a lot of positive emotion about right now. So right now, I'm very grateful that I ended my years of travel and I'm now back, not quite in my hometown, but in Washington, D.C., which is, right next to Maryland. I grew up in Maryland, but I'm in D.C., in a city that I love, near some of my best friends, and I get to see them every single week, which is incredible. Where you're going, right? Where you're headed. So maybe these are goals that you have, or like plans for where you're headed. It doesn't have to just be,
I was gonna say this is a pointer finger. I guess this is a video podcast, but
oh, that's
we're holding up our pointer finger. I feel it's important because
we're listening. Yeah, that's true. Fair. That one's for my friend Grace, who just listens to the audio podcast.
Grace, we're pointing at you.
We're pointing.
We're helping you.
So I'll be going to Grace's house very soon to visit her, her husband, her son.
Yes. Pointer finger.
It could be, like travel plans that you have, or I like, goals, like, where we in Grindstone are headed. We're talking about getting a new sales rep and starting to grow the team because we're now finding success in our sales and marketing. We're
exciting.
Getting more and more clients coming in. I'm also going to some weddings this year. So yeah, where are you going?
Yay. Where are you going?
Middle finger, which is what is frustrating you, right? What is pissing you off?
I love that.
Yeah. What is pissing you off? Which I don't think anything's.
Come on, Dylan. Something.
What is pissing?
The garbage guy threw your can across the street.
I live in an apartment. We don't have there's no garbage. I don't have any garbage cans.
Life is too good for you. Life is too good, which is great. I want more of that for you.
Life has been, quite good. What has been frustrating has been just this is so basic, but the flip side of what I'm very grateful for is I went from basically having $0 of expenses to several thousands of dollars more. Rent's not cheap here in DC. Things in general are more expensive, and it's.
Why is it so expensive to live by your friends? Why can't we all go somewhere cheap together?
I'm telling you, I have this dream that all my friends and I will one day just move to Thailand, which is this stunningly gorgeous, beautiful, safe, lovely place on the other side of the planet that is very affordable to live.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel you on that dream.
ring finger. What have you been incredibly committed to or loyal to? So I have pretty much bled for growing this company. It took us a very long time to make any money at all. And then now we continue to level up. Our problems level up. And it's been, very, very fun. But I'm committed to my team, my business partner, and just making this really, really successful. And then lastly, your pinky finger, which is a little known fact about you that not even your friends and family really know. And I think for me, it would be that I love living alone. It's been very nice, and it is significantly lonelier than I was anticipating. And while I really like alone time, there are some end of days where I don't have plans, and it's really hard to not just like sit on my couch and scroll YouTube on my phone because I'm just like, well, what the hell else am I going to do? It's been much better lately, but it's still a thing. I don't really talk to anybody about it. So,
wow, I appreciate you sharing that. And also super common when you move to a new city too. Like you just don't have the social calendar built up yet, which I think is, and then you work online and you work remote, all of those things. So super relatable.
Well, hence the point of the 5-finger exercise is to share.
Oh, yes.
Is to share a few relatable human activities. And I would love to end this conversation by you going through it if you're willing.
Yes. And one thing I want to highlight that you did really well is that you demonstrated vulnerability, which is really important when you want people to respond vulnerably, whether it's in a group setting or in your writing or in your video making podcast. Vulnerability begets vulnerability. And so I appreciate you doing that because I think that's really important. Okay,
thank you.
Let's see if I got this.
Real quick, can I side quest for one quick second?
Yes, of course.
Today, I forgot to mention this, but today, based on what you just said, so I wanted to create a meetup, not just join meetups when I got here, but I want to organize a meetup. And I organized a deep talk meetup. It's called Skip the Small Talk. It's every Wednesday night when today's a Wednesday, so it's tonight. And
love that.
I bring these question cards, kind of, it's like how deep will you go, or just random questions for strangers to ask each other and open up in a way that's way more human connection based than what do you do for work? Where are you from? And what's been so fascinating is people join and they're clearly like they're I call them muggles. They're not like you and me where it's just like, yeah, cool. Yeah. What are you working on? Just like kind of effort.
You're just online telling everyone our lives.
Yeah. This woman, she's like 50 and she joined, and her first question was just like, what's the biggest mistake you've made in your life? And she was just like, and I was just like, she had no idea what she was in for, but she challenged herself. And especially because she heard, you hear everybody else share, like what you're saying, you hear one person share something really vulnerable and you're like, okay, cool. It's now safe to do this. It's completely okay and normal for me to do this as well. So I wanted to tell a story, give an example of that playing out. Like you open up, people open up.
I want to respond to that, but I want to tie it into my 5-finger challenge because I have a related story to that as well. Yep. Meetup, though, I would like to say most underrated app. Like in a world where loneliness epidemic is basically trending as a concept, Meetup is so great. And actually hosting a meetup is not that difficult. So I love that you did that.
Super easy.
Tons of people come and the people are craving it.
We had 16 people show up. We're on this big grassy field outside the cathedral.
16?
It was beautiful. Yeah, it was great.
That's insane. That's literally insane. That's like huge numbers. Getting 16 people to show up on a Zoom course is difficult. So to have people actually like get on a bus or a car or walk over is huge.
Yeah, some people came like it was like an hour and a half to get there. Like,
oh my gosh.
So to really drive home this desire for just human interaction and connection away from
Yeah, full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Thumbs up. My first thing that I'm grateful for, thing that's going well.
Yeah.
A lot of things are going well, which I'm really excited about.
Quit bragging.
Everything's great. I don't want to steal yours. In the past year, I have been really working on receiving. So I'm somebody that, when I was growing up, my mom had a really big narrative around being independent, never dependent on anybody else. I saw reciprocity as like an icky thing, which my therapist was like, what? You think it's like a bad thing? And I was like, no, like you give to people or you receive from people. Like there's this tit for tat thing going on. And so I really challenged myself to like receive more when I was taking time off work, like letting my friends sending me gifts and being really grateful for it, letting people, if they want to pay for my meal or give me a book that they're interested in, or if the, barista wants to give me a free coffee, I'm like trying to just like receive better. And it's been wild to see how much that has changed my life and my relationships and like what the universe gives me. Like I'm really convinced that like because I'm now open to receiving, people give me more. Like one of my friends, I was like, oh, I really want to do masterclass again, but I don't really want to pay for the subscription. And also my friend texted me and was like, oh, like I could buy one, get one. I'd love to give it to you. And I think before I'd be like, oh, I'm not sure. Should I give you something back in return? And I was just really grateful to receive it. And so a little abstract, but something that I'm grateful for is I think my capacity to receive has really improved. And it's surprisingly deepened my relationships with other people instead of harm them. And it's also have made me feel much more giving too. So I think it's good for community, to be honest.
Yeah. Cool.
My pointer finger, what direction I'm going in.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm fully self-employed, which is interesting and scary for me. My writing coaching business is mine alone. I've done freelancing in the past couple of years. I've not worked for a couple of years. I've worked in the corporate setting. And so growing my writing coaching, helping people who are writing nonfiction essays, those type of things, it's been really interesting to me. And I am leaning into that. And so that is the direction I'm going, is to just be more self-employed. And then we'll see what happens. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but I'm very excited for this new season of my life.
Awesome.
Middle finger. I feel like nervous. Flipping off the camera.
Gonna
get demonetized, yeah.
The day that I have something that could possibly be demonetized would be a lovely day.
What is the question around it? I know it's like F you, but
what's pissing you off lately?
What's pissing me off? I met a lot of really great people on Twitter, X as it's now called. I've like built a community. People followed me there. I wasn't on social media for like a long time before that. And so it was really nice to come in as like a creator and writer and just start to meet people online using that tool. And now I just find I like can't log in. Like I just hate the experience. I don't know what their algorithm is doing, but it just seems like it's optimizing for a dumpster fire. It makes me feel terrible every time I go on. I don't even see my friends' stuff. And so I'm really frustrated. Like I think I'm moving off the platform. Luckily, Substack Notes exist, and I've been really leaning into that. A lot more people are using that. But I'm sad because like I know I have friends who aren't on Substack, online friends, and it frustrates me that experience is so bad right now. So that is something that I'm frustrated in. Commitment. I already said my business. You know what I'm committed to actually? Before moving to South Carolina, I kind of unexpectedly been moving a lot year to year, changing cities, changing states. And I'm really appreciating and have really committed, quote unquote, to staying in one place. And it's so nice. So you touched upon this a little bit too. I didn't know a lot of people when I moved here. I'm lucky my sister is my roommate, but we didn't necessarily have a huge community. And it's nice to be like, I'm going to meet somebody. Like I'm actually going to meet somebody and we can like build a relationship. And then now like I go to the grocery store and I might like run into a couple of people I know, or I go to different events that are in the same circle of themes that I enjoy. And I'm starting to see more people, even just like buying furniture or like decoration and being like, I'm going to be here for an extra year. Let me just buy something. I'm not going to move and sell it or put it in a garage sale. And so like the commitment to a location has really helped me build community, and I really appreciate it. I lived in a small town a couple years ago where I just knew I wasn't going to stay and like didn't talk to anybody, and it made me appreciate how much I missed being in a community and like feeling like I was going to stay in a community. So I'm going to use that for my commitment one. And then Pinky, I forgot what Pinky was.
A little known fact about you that even your friends and family don't quite know.
What is a little known fact about me that my friends and family don't know? What I do for a living?
You're still on the internet?
And so what type of writing is that? Like a blog? Little known fact about me. This is the fun facts are the ones that always get me. Oh, I would say, I mean, it's a little known fact because I think nobody cares. So I don't know if people are interested in these things. But if you know astrology, I am a Capricorn. And if you are aware of birth charts, you have different planets in different like parts of, you might have like Jupiter in Aries or whatever. So Capricorns are known for working hard. Capricorns are known for being stubborn, things like that. I actually have like 5 planets. Like half my chart is in Capricorn. I'm really into horoscopes now. I love it. I think it's so fun. And it's funny because my sister's into this, so we joke about it. But like I like everything just always points back to like working harder. And I'm somebody who, like, my niche on the internet at first was like sabbatical and taking time off work. And so like the irony is that like actually my astrological calling is to like work harder. And so, and it's funny, like if I ever like do a tarot reading or if I do anything, like people are always like, your career, like I'm really seeing career here. And I'll be like, what about love life? And they're like, no, I think you're gonna really fall in love with your work. And so yeah, if you're into astrology, I have like 5 planets in Capricorn, which is uncommon. And a fun fact, maybe not for you, Dillan, I don't know, but it is like just like a fun little thing.
Very cool. Sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. 5 fingers.
I like it. I will steal that.
Cool. Does it feel useful?
Yes. Oh, I didn't even actually share my story that I was going to share, but now it's kind of irrelevant, so I guess I won't. But it was really useful, and I host, events in person, or I attend in-person events. I really like to put myself out there, attend things like meetups. And so I think like that's like a nice anchor for like moving out of basic, what do you do for a living, those type of conversations.
Yeah. Is the story really irrelevant? I think I'd be curious to hear it to send us off.
What it ties back to is we were talking about vulnerability and like sharing. And so my sister and I, we were attending these meetups around the idea of like law of attraction and manifestation. This is the woo-woo part of the podcast. And it's so fun because the people there are like the happiest, like super successful. Like a lot of the older people who've been in this for a while, like they're such great poster children for the idea, because they're like, I don't even care if this is real. Like clearly it's doing something. So my sister and I have taken over as host for the summer because the current host is taking a break. And so we had some people attend. We brought them into our home yesterday. We gave them tea. And somebody who was new actually shared, he's like, actually today is the 4-year anniversary of my dad's passing. And so it was really interesting that he brought that up and he shared that with us. And he actually ended up bringing it up again when we were actually having our group discussion. And it's one of those things where I really appreciated his vulnerability. And I was like, wow, that's kind of like, that's a heavy, it's like today he's thinking about it. It's really personal. And then someone actually commented, one of the older men, he said, actually, I lost my father when I was 13. And so I really understand like what you're going through and how you're experiencing this. And then one of the younger women commented, and she's like, I actually lost my dad 2 years ago around this time. And then a 4th man chimed in and said, I actually lost my own father like 2 years ago. And so it's one of those things, and because it's the idea of the group is like law of attraction and manifestation, we sort of felt this sense of like, wow, like how is it that everybody ended up in this room together today? Like at such a, Father's Day is around the corner. Everyone shares this really similar theme in their story. And whether you're into the woo stuff or not, I think the point is like because one person was actually open to sharing that, it really the conversation took a turn, and everybody was able to both share their own experience and sort of support one another in that. And it was interesting because people had done different things to help process that information. It had inspired people to, going through something like that actually inspired a couple of people to like quit their jobs and just like take a leap of faith. And so full circle back to like that being humans in a room together and being able to like share your experience. And in that case, like being able to just like share vulnerably, like today's a tough day for me. This major thing happened in my life. And I'm still thinking about it. It really gave permission for everybody to share more about their own experience and be able to relate to one another.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it sounds like it was a domino effect, right? Like it was this compounding thing that sped up more and more to the point where almost when you have more than half of the room being vulnerable, now you're the odd man out. If you are a bit more reserved, it's just like, oh, well, now like the cool thing to do is to be open and vulnerable.
Yeah. You're like, okay, this is a space that will hold respect for the things that I want to share, and other people are responding well to it. And there were people. That guy was actually new to the group, so we had never met him before. But there were like two of the other men. I actually didn't know that about them. I've known them for maybe a year now, and I was like, wow, like. Just because maybe there wasn't an opportunity to share that story in the spaces that we're in. But I was like, wow, I didn't know that that's something that's been going on in your life. And I feel a bit closer to them as well, like being able to like learn those things. And so, so it really made me appreciate how just being open and vulnerable, like we're talking about it. And like you said, like we're two people, we're online, we share our feelings. But I think people are scared. Like they're like, I don't want to dump my problems on people. But I encourage you to do it. I think we're afraid of being that person who says too much, but that's probably a little bit of a vulnerability hangover. In reality, like people, it really like I find more times than not, it actually helps deepen the connection with other people. So
Totally.
Lean into your humanness for sure.
Lean into your humanness, Michelle Varghese. You are the best. I had a feeling that this would be very fun and flowy. I told you this before we started recording, but I usually show up with an outline to these, so I have an idea of what we'll talk about. And I was like, you know what? We're just gonna go for it. We're gonna send it today.
No plan.
And just see what happens. And I only had a few panic attacks throughout this conversation.
I appreciate you being honest.
No.
I didn't notice.
No.
I was too focused on myself. Not kidding.
Just looking at your own camera view. But,
yeah.
I will link people to your writing coaching and probably not your Twitter because you hate it, but anywhere else you want me to point people.
Yeah, my Twitter, my Substack, my writing coaching. You can follow me on Twitter. I haven't deleted it. But I would say I'm definitely more active writing on Substack as of right now. So if you're interested in this topic, writing in general, sabbaticals, just personal essays, that's where I'm at. And I love, like, I'm really blessed. Like, so many people comment and engage with my work. And I encourage people, like, if you have your own story to share, I'm always really receptive to it. So yeah, I would love to hear from you if there was something that resonated.
Beautiful. Thanks for today. This was great.
Thank you so much for having me, Dillan. I really appreciate it.